4 games, 1 name, 1 imposter. While all of these games proudly wear the mantle of Power Rangers the movie, one of them clearly was never meant to be that. And so far, we've deduced that it wasn't any of the handheld games, leaving us with just 2 suspects left. And after the half-ass showing that Genesis put out there the first time around, and let's not even bring up Released in 1995 by Banpresto, Power Rangers the movie on Sega Genesis showed up swinging with one hell of a strong alibi, and by the looks of it, something to prove. Clearly, having actually read the assignment, from the cover matching the movie promos, the text crawl of the plot, the amazing score right from the show, it is awesome. And they even have our big bad actually show up right at the start. The Genesis version knows what we came here for, and it doesn't stop there. Where all of the other movie games are basically just souped up versions of their predecessors, I especially love the upgrade the Sega CD game got. The Genesis version completely scrapped its mediocre fighting game formula for something completely different. A beat 'em up. A 2-player co-op beat 'em up. Arguably the most fitting genre for this type of adaptation. Jumping right into the action, we have all 6 Rangers to choose from, and while the heroes behind the helmets are acknowledged, sort of? Unlike the Nintendo versions, you don't get to play as them. You immediately start out morphed in the fray against the Ooze Men, the first enemies from the movie. Nice. The Rangers themselves all look really cool, though, like with all the other games, are mostly just recolors. I really wish they had at least made the helmets stand out, since they didn't actually have to make civilian mode sprites this time. But at the very least, they do have a large range of moves to work with that are actually pretty similar to how the Turtles do in Turtles in Time. For example, they have multiple jump attacks as well as a backflip. And how you trigger them actually depends on what point the Ranger is in their jump animation when you activate the attack. Just like the Turtles. They also have a run attack, a jump attack, a basic punch combo, and a roundhouse kick that unfortunately drains their health when they use it. They also have a throw, a very, very dangerous one. Aside from the enemies, there are very heavy objects, and they really aren't any fun to use. You literally can't move around with them, so you're basically just locked into one set of tiles. But more importantly, regardless of what it is, enemy or heavy objects, whatever you help kiss the sky can not only hit your foes, but your allies too. Lastly, every Ranger is rocking a charge attack, which is the most significant of the bunch as it's really the only difference between the Rangers gameplay wise. And honestly, it's not even that much. Pink, black, and yellow basically all just have your standard projectile. White does too, but it has a much shorter range. Blue has a forward spin attack that really only has one significant moment in the game, and red, interestingly enough, has an aerial attack, which is actually super fitting because it's the only charge move that can hit Goldar while he's in the air. Jason wasn't in the movie. Yeah, while this game hits a lot of the movie's plot points, I think it was never actually meant to be a Power Rangers movie game. After Ooze shows up and blasts you in the first stage, and you fight your way through the double threat of Oozemen and drunk drivers in the second, the game basically lays out the entire plot of the movie in one giant exposition dump. Going to Phaedos, getting the sacred powers, literally all of it. And we never get to play any of it. Man, I wanted to fight these guys. But I mean, at least the game acknowledges it, so you know, that's something. The clue suggests that most likely this game, and probably the Gamegear game too, started development as a Season 2 Power Rangers game. As all of the cutscenes... They're guilty. Anyway, as those horrifying cutscenes diverge via flashback into the events of Season 2, where the original Red, Black, and Yellow Ranger transfer their powers to the new ones. Which, by the way, is why I've been saying their colors instead of their names. And the following stages are from Season 2, including a cave maze with an optional boss against Lord Zed himself, you know, the main villain from Season 2, as well as this awful dying planet where you are just constantly being pelted with debris. Ugh. Pro tip, just run through this stage. It kind of sucks. Though, bright side, you do get dual Zord battles using the Thunder Megazord and the Tiger Zord. And since there are two of them, it means that both players can each give a shot at controlling each Zord. And while the Zords do play pretty similarly to the Rangers, there are differences, replacing the run with a sliding ram attack and the jump for a block. Plus, appropriately, they feel a bit heavier. Ironically though, it's the Season 2 stages where the game's major shortcomings become the most apparent. First up, the time limits. For whatever reason, this game has time limits, but they're not exactly what you'd expect. It's not a time limit that you have to beat the stage in, it's just time limits for segments of the stages. And contrary to what you might think, hitting 0 doesn't result in a game over or anything like that. You just start to lose health rapidly. And considering how much you have, this is 3 bars by the way, it's not that big of an issue. Unless of course you really suck. But I guess it does layer on a very cheap sense of danger, especially in the longer stages like the cave. Though I do need to mention that that's mostly just for the hard mode, which all the single player footage is. Playing on any difficulty below that, you probably won't even notice that there is a time limit. But where the game really drops the ball is its major lack of variety with the combat. And yes, I do mean by beat 'em up standards. While it is true that, as I mentioned before, the Rangers have quite the arsenal at their disposal, but that all means jack if they've got no one to use it on. And as they say, a hero is only as good as their villain. Outside of a handful of boss fights, which also get reused, hello Goldar, there are only Oozmen in the first 2 stages and putties in all the rest. And no, they do not have the versatility of the Foot Clan. They are all exactly the same, very one note. Except that they have varying sized health bars, allowing some to go down with a single hit so they can spawn in a lot faster, while others need to be fully comboed. And admittedly, it's kinda cool, dropping large number of baddies at Mach 2. But as you might expect, it can get old pretty quick. Though, the absolutely rocking tunes from the Power Rangers franchise does some serious lifting, making every fight, as repetitive as they can be, feel fast and energetic. This game wouldn't be half as good if it was stuck with the more original music that the Nintendo versions got. Combine that with the fact that it's over almost as fast as it starts. The longest levels, the flashback stages, are still only 3 stages, and when they end, the movie picks right back up at the finale, just in time for back-to-back boss fights against the Ectomorphicons, and the Ninja Megazord and the Falcon Zord. And I gotta say, these fights rock. Requiring a bit more strategy, blocking, and timing with the attacks, they're a little bit harder, and they are an amazing way to close out the game that honestly leaves you yearning for more. But there is no more. I think that's for the best. Power Rangers the movie on Sega Genesis is a very short game, especially for such an easy one, clocking in at roughly 30 to 45 minutes. And while that may not sound like much, it absolutely works for a beat 'em up as bare bones and lacking variety as this one. We get our fix of awesome Power Rangers tunes, action, and nostalgia, as well as fun without it ever overstaying its welcome. And then, say in a year or so later, you grab a friend, you pick it up, you pop it in, and do it all over again. It's that kind of game. And while it doesn't fully conform to the movie's narrative, it wears its Power Ranger lineage proudly, and is easily one of the best games the franchise has to offer. Can't find any dirt on this guy. He's clean.